cucumber sandwiches. I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir.
No cucumbers?
No, sir, not even for ready money.
That'll do, then. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am greatly distressed, Ankita, about there being no cucumbers available. Not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now.
Yes, I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
Oh, it certainly has changed its colour. From what cause, I, of course, cannot say. Thank you. I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She is such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I am afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly say a terrible disappointment to me, but the fact of the matter is, I have just received a telegram informing me that my poor friend Mr. Bunbury is very ill again. And he seemed to think that I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. This dilly-dallying of the question is absurd. Nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take much notice as far as any improvement in his ailments goes. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when everyone has practically said whatever they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
Well, I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious, and I think I can promise that he'll be all right by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, then people don't listen, and if one plays bad music, then people don't talk. But I'll run over the program I've drawn out if you will kindly step into the next room with me for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think they are improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed I believe is so. Gwendolen, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Weldon. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else. That makes me so nervous.
I do mean something.
I think so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I often have to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I've met since I met you.
I am quite aware of the fact, and I often wish that in public, at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact has been constantly mentioned in more expensive monthly magazines and has reached a provincial pulpit, I am told. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There's something that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolen.
Passionately.
My own one, you don't know how happy you made me.
My own Earnest.
You don't really mean to say you couldn't love me. My name wasn't Earnest.
But your name is Earnest.
Yes, but supposing it wasn't. You really mean to say you couldn't love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, it has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life.
Well, personally, darling, I don't care much for the name of Earnest. I don't think it suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has music of its own. It produces vibration.
Well, darling, I must tell you quite charming. I feel that...
No, there's very little music of the name Jacobini, or indeed, it does not thrill, it produces absolutely no vibrations. I've known several Jets in my life, and they all, with that exception, were more than usually played. Besides, Jack has a notorious domesticity for the name John, and I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. Should probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Earnest.
Well then, darling, I must get christened. I mean, we must get married at once. There is no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, you know that I love you, Miss Fairfax, and you led me to believe that you are not absolutely indifferent.
Yes, I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject hasn't even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you from any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I'm fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolen!
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolen. Will you marry me?
Of course I will, Mr. Worthing. How long have you been about it? I am afraid you have had very little experience in how to propose.
But my own one, I've never loved anyone but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Earnest. Yeah, quite blue. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing! Right now from the semi-recumbent posture! It is less indecorous!
Mama! I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. It is hardly a matter that she could be allowed to arrange for herself. And now, I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I'm making these inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mama!
In the carriage, Gwendolen! Gwendolen! In the carriage!
Certainly, Mama.
You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell, but I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men. Although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together, in fact. However, I'm quite ready to enter your name should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Now, do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I've always been of opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land.
I have a country house with some land attached to it, of course, about 1,500 acres. But I don't depend on that for my real income. As far as I make out, the poachers are the only people who make anything out of it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope? A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, I do own a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham. I can get it back whenever I like in about 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
Oh, she goes about very little. She's a lady considerably advanced in her years.
Ah, nowadays that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both! If necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
I'm afraid I really have none. I am a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us or come in the evening at any rate. Now, to minor matters. Are your parents living?
Well, I've lost both my parents.
Both? To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both seems like carelessness. Evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce, or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
I'm afraid I don't really know. I had said that my parents had lost me. It would be closer to the truth to say that they had lost me. I don't know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
Yes. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, a gentleman of a kindly and charitable disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman with a first-class ticket to this seaside resort find you?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake of his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred,